Well, there we go. Hello.
There we go. How are you, Brian?
Great, thanks. Now, yeah, yourself?
Yeah, looking forward to today. Back to basics, back to talking about accountability on the accountability habit. So I think this is what we need to do. So excited for this.
Definitely, yeah. It's about time. It's about time
It's
we get
about time. It's about time. So how's our week? I know you had a bit of an up and down week. We chatted about it beforehand.
Yeah, had an eventful week there. Yeah, I pretty much soon after we hung up, like, well, the Thursday morning, I woke up not feeling too great. So I was pretty sure it was COVID. I was kind of in bed. I was isolating, and yeah, it was a bad old dose, as they say, and but I got the test done. I wasn't good enough to get the test done that day. I went the next day and turned out negative. But so it was just some virus, some kind of nasty virus, very weak with it. But isolating for a few days. So when I was starting to feel better, I actually got a little bit of work done in my isolation chamber. But then, yeah, on the road to recovery now, thankfully.
It's just dawned on me there that isolation is a way for is a pathway for accountability.
It is. Once you're feeling well, once you get over the hump,
That's it. Well, you've nothing
you
else
get
to
a
do.
lot.
You're locked in a room. That's accountability. Lock yourself in a room.
Oh well, here like Saturday and Sunday were like two working days for me, two full working days, and like I got two funding applications done for Parkhead from start to finish on the Saturday and the Sunday, and they need to be in this
Wow.
Wednesday. And realistically, I probably wouldn't have got them done if it hadn't been for the illness, to be honest.
It's
So
crazy, isn't it?
if we get any of that funding, it's because I got sick that we got that funding.
We've tanking that viral infection.
I know.
Crazy. And how'd you get on with your goals last week?
Yeah, so lads, so the goals took a little bit of a hit there, but like I got a bit of work done as well. So
Yeah.
I had the workshop promotion. I want to promote my workshops, so I did a really nice job tidying up the website on those, and I promoted them a little bit. I could do a bit more, so I continue that. And launch prep, so preparation for a launch. I've got a big launch tomorrow. Well, it's a relaunch of my course, so I'm doing a 1-hour webinar tomorrow, talking through my 8-step framework. So lots of value. But at the end of that, I'm going to pitch then as well for anyone that liked the content. Look, do you like this content? Do you want to dive deeper? So that's happening tomorrow. And so I've got a lot of prep done for that, a bit more to do. And then the third one I didn't get done again, didn't close it anyways, the Parkhead insurance. That's been hanging over me for a while. But at least I got the applications done, and I've got a board meeting tonight for Parkhead where I hope we'll have a decision on the Parkhead insurance.
And that's despite viral infection and the isolation and everything that goes with it. So I think that's a win. That's a big win this week.
I'm happy enough with that, to be honest.
Yeah, take that. I had an interesting week myself. So it was only when you said it. So one of my big goals this week was R&R. I went away. So I was 8 years drug-free 2 weeks ago. So my partner, Natalie, brought me away for the weekend. So we were down in Seafield in Wexford for the weekend, which was beautiful, lovely. A little bit dosey as well, and just barely there. Do you know, one of those things? So I'd say it was a well-needed R&R. Just read books, went to the spa, chilled out, and really, really needed it. But it's crazy. Like, as much as I love me work, after a weekend like that, it's hard to get back into it. Like, it's really hard to get back into it. I think that's a good sign of good R&R when you're struggling to get back into the work. You really sat down. So that was great. I definitely chilled the body out there. So that's a big tick for one of the things.
Yeah.
The other big one this week for me was, so we're launching with a 2-week marketing campaign for our manifesting course that starts next Tuesday, the neuroscience and psychology of manifesting. So marketed that all last week. We've loads of subscribers for this course. If anyone's interested in that, it's about unplugging the blocks that block you from living the life of dreams. It's not all about believing and dreaming of what you want. It's about getting rid of the things that keep you stuck and block you. So that marketing campaign is going great. And I have Sheila Showigan and Georgie Crawford all promoting the course. We have an Instagram live with Georgie tonight. Mm-hmm. And you know what? That brings me to something about what we're touching on today about accountability. It's when you collaborate with other people. Like me and you have worked with each other on many, many projects. And when you collaborate with other people, you're instantly accountable for your actions within that collaboration. So even with the Instagram live with Georgie tonight, now I'm prepping for it. I'm accountable for showing up and putting in a performance, if you want to call it performance for that. So it's really interesting the way the accountability filters in everywhere. And so that's a big tick. Marketing went well, great week of marketing. And then the last goal for me was a name, not so much of the company. I'm looking for this brand thing. So this is a constant thing. I'm trying to come up with this name, like real change, creating real change. Do I stay with change as possible? So I've moved the needle on that, but I haven't quite got there. This brand thing is going to be an ongoing thing. I think I'm going to drop it from my goals because I think it's going to be organic. But it was interesting. It was interesting. I definitely made headway on it as well. So 2.5 out of 3. Well, someday I'll get 3 out of 3.
That's pretty good now, yeah. And you tick the main one there, which is the R&R one. And I think I'm going to take a leaf out of your book, given the week I had. I'm going to try and that's going to be one of my goals now for this week coming up. Proper R&R,
yeah. And there's learning that as well. I was saying to myself, I'm going to take a big break in December at some stage, but I think I need it more than ever. It's just to completely shut off and recharge the batteries. It's so important. So important.
Absolutely, yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
So this week, how to be accountable.
How to be accountable,
yeah. How does it work for you? How do you go about being accountable?
So much to talk about here today, Brian, I think. And I'll start off with a couple of things. So obviously something that this whole podcast is built on is me and you being accountable to each other. That's why we call it the accountability habit of what we did. And definitely having an accountability partner is huge, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's your partner in crime, like whatever, your husband, your wife, whatever that is, whether it's a business colleague, naming the fact that you're an accountability or you're keeping each other accountable. This is what we're going to do. Puts it down in stone, for want of a better word. You're inscribing it, you're making it real, you're bringing it into reality, and that is a great thing to do. But just a question you asked me there was, how did I stay accountable? And I would consider myself quite self-accountable kind of person. There's a couple of tricks. I'll go into a couple of the ideas that are a couple of things that I've really worked on in the last while. And one of the things, so accountability partner obviously is one of them, with yourself. Another one for me is I make things public. And I'm not talking about social media or putting it in the newspaper or anything like that. I just let people know. And I don't know where I heard about this idea. And it was something that just sort of embedded into me psyche, because it wasn't a tactic or a tool I did. It was just something that I did that I heard somewhere else. And it's just tell other people what you're doing. So you put pressure on yourself to have to do it. So if I go telling people here, I'm going to be a public speaker, this is what I'm going to do. Well, guess what? Now people know, and there's pressure on me to do that. Now that necessarily doesn't work for everybody, especially if you're not into pressure. But if you want to be entrepreneurial, these are the things you have to do. So I think something I do is I tell people, this is what I'm going to do, this is my plans, and it just puts that external pressure back on me and helps me to forge forward, and it keeps me accountable. Another thing personally that I think is really, really important for anyone else that wants to be accountable is to come up with a personal mission statement. So I have my own mission statement, and it's around showing people that change is possible. But if you wanted to make it specifically personable to yourself, and this is just something I came up with before the show. So this could be your personal statement. I don't condemn, blame, or criticize others. Instead, I own my actions and take responsibility for all aspects of my life. And what accountability, sometimes we shift it and we say, well, it's not my fault, it's someone else's fault, and we shift blame. Or we might even be determined by what we the cards we've been dealt in life. Well, I'm not smart, I'm not beautiful, I'm not this, I'm not that. And we externally look for blame, the government, the political situation, all these different things. But if you own the part that you can control, what you can own, and say, right, what part of this can I control? What part of this has caused this problem? And if you put that in a personal mission statement, it's something that you're going to try to align yourself to, and to really, really deeply think about it and try to live out that personal mission statement. And I think that's really, really important.
Can I jump in there? Yeah, because I just think that is so important there, and I love that personal mission statement. And I've never written one down like that, but I think for any kind of entrepreneurs or self-employed people or people considering it, that's really important, that you need to own the responsibility for you and your business. I hate all these. I know there's some people out there now that are facing serious challenges and all that kind of stuff, but there's also a lot of people that are just blaming everyone else for their own problems, their own issues. But if you, as a self-employed person, like, there's only one person, if my business isn't successful, there's only one person at fault for that, not the government, not some kind of funding I didn't get or some kind of blockage somewhere else. It's just because it's on me, 100% responsibility on me. So taking ownership of that, understanding that, for some it might be a little bit frightening, but I think that's empowering. And I think that's really, really important to have that, the very first step, to understand that before you're starting out. It's 100% on you. No blame game on anybody else.
Yeah, and it's like owning your wins, but realizing that the things that don't go your way either, you've got to own that as well. Take full responsibility, and I think that like taking it full, whatever inverted commas full, like every part of that, even if it seemingly doesn't look like that for yourself. And I think that's a core trait.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
You had another point, did you?
Yeah, and the last one really, Brian, other things to touch on as well. I know you're going to talk about them as well, but one thing, and we talked about it last week around mentorship and stuff like that. And if you want to reach out to people for mentorship and stuff like that, the one thing that I noticed, a couple of really big mentors of mine, was they recognized that I was fully accountable. I wasn't blaming other things for my addiction. I wasn't blaming anyone for where I was at, and I was just reaching out and taking risks. And they were saying you're just fully accountable, and that was the one thing that they really liked, and they thought that was lacking in the world right now. And the one thing that I done with all of their mentors was when they gave me advice, I acted on that advice. I was fully accountable for that, and I acted on that advice. And that's the reason why they sort of came back to me and gave me further advice down the road. So I thought that was really interesting. But I was just basically the feedback. I actually reach out to them. Like only this morning, I got a good opportunity, and I'm going to reach out to them and ask them for feedback. And it's a funny way to be accountable, but it's like I'm basically getting their advice, and they're interested in how the story's gone. They're going to be asking me the next time, how did that go? What happened with that? So I'm accountable for the response to the advice they're giving me and how I run with that going forward. And one thing they always say to me is, any of my mentors, it says, don't always take my advice. I could be wrong, but it's like, what did you do with that information as well? I think is really important. So seek feedback from other people is a lesser, a smaller way of being accountable, but it definitely does make you be accountable.
Very good. Yeah, no, I love that. Really important part of it. I think like what I really noticed about accountability, or the first time it really became so an important point for me, was moving from the world of employment to self-employment. So I had been working for an employer previously for years and years and years, a few different employers, but like working on their time. I had a boss, I had their deadlines, if you like. Whereas then setting up your own business, I mean, it's up to you. You manage your own time. You're accountable for your own time.
Yeah.
You're accountable for your own deadlines. Whatever way you said, you can work as hard as you want, as long as you want. You can work as little as you want.
Yeah.
Which for some people can be tempting. It's a big danger. So it depends on, you had a great line earlier. You're quite a self-accountable person. So am I. I remember for first 2 or 3 years of my business, like a Monday to Friday, certainly, I worked long days, Monday to Friday. And even then, I remember me feeling guilty one day. That Christopher Nolan film came out, Dunkirk. And the only time I could get to see it, it was like 1:15 on a Friday afternoon. And I went to see it, and I felt so guilty. That's the only time I can remember taking off on a Monday to Friday in the first 3 years. And I still felt guilty about that. But like, that's just my nature. But like, I don't know, if you're not at least in some way self-accountable, and you're starting your own business, or you're entrepreneurial, like, watch out for that, because you need to manage that. You need to own that again, and take full responsibility for that.
And there's nearly a flip side of that as well, Brian, which you've just touched on. It's like the guilt of not being accountable. I would call it, when I don't go to gym, or when I don't do that, I can feel the guilt. I should be doing that. So you can go in the opposite direction and push too much. See, the awareness is the key with that as well, so you don't burn yourself out. And I think it's really interesting that both myself and yourself are talking about R&R. Like, be self-accountable for your R&R and your own personal health as well. It's really important.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm like, it's kind of what I do, but I am very accountable from an exercise point of view as well. I think I always talk about that. But even it can be tough, and I've got 2 kids here as well. It's hard to balance and work 2 businesses, if you like, the social enterprise and the work well community. It's hard to balance everything. So a way I hold myself accountable. Another almost a trick, if you like, from the exercise point of view, is I've signed up to a gym, semi kind of private gym. Pay them money every week, comes out of the account every week. I've got 3 sessions, but there are 3 slots. So when I book it, you have to book in those slots. If I don't turn up at that slot, my slot is gone. So there's money down the toilet. So I feel really accountable for that. So I book in those early morning sessions. I'm booked in. It's like it's an appointment. So I'm accountable to that appointment. So I turn up. I have my slot there for 1 hour. I do my workout, and I get home. It's nice and early, and I'm back home early. That's me holding myself accountable. And I'll try and get out maybe for a run or something else at least one more time during the week. But I'm holding that in. Like, and to be honest, if I didn't have that with everything else that's going on, there's a good chance something will get in the way of it. But now it's in the diary. It's kind of locked in. So another kind of way to be accountable.
Yeah, and I love that. And it really just jumped out at the most prominent way of being accountable is money. It's incentives. Like I remember Tony, I think it was Tony Robbins, I'm not sure, like he charges like, I think it's like £1 million to be a personal coach for someone. And he says, I don't need the money. I don't charge now, whether that's a lie or not. I said, I don't charge the money because I need it. I charge that because I want a 100% record, because when they pay £1 million, they're going to be fully accountable for their actions. So like incentives, it's when you do a course, if you get a course for free, you get something for free, you're not going to put the work in. But if you paid good money for something, whether it's the gym, whether it's a course, whether it's something, you're going to be more accountable for that. It's just the fact of the matter. So incentives, just monetary or other incentives, are really important.
That's a good point. And we started doing that now. So we have Parkit, we deliver kind of sessions for companies. Parkit at work, it's one of the paid options for the social enterprise if you like to generate revenue. But we try and encourage, like a lot of companies, they pay up front, they pay for the entire, all their attendees, if you like. But I kind of say, look, if you can, try and get €5 out of each one of those guys, and even donate that €5 to charity. Like you're paying the fee for the classes.
Yeah.
Well, get €5. Tell them it's going to the whatever for the class. You got to sign up. You got to commit with some money. €5, €10 for like 8 weeks of classes. It's great value, and the money's going to charity then as well. But it's just that kind of financial incentive, the commitment. People have committed a lot more than just replying to an email to something free.
Yeah, it's important. It's important. And there's one other thing I'd love to touch on, Brian. I know you're going to talk about it as well, and it's around setting goals and stuff like that. But there's a line I love. It's what gets measured gets managed, or what gets measured gets done. It's nearly like the measurement of something just helps you to do something. Because if you try to keep things in your head, you're juggling balls, you're going to miss them. You're going to miss something somewhere along the line. And I think just having some sort of a to-do list. Now, I've talked about my to-do list before. It's like it's my bread and butter really of what I do. And it's a rating system of how well I've done stuff. And it just helps me measure things as I'm going along. But even on my whiteboard in my office, what I have my short-term goals, my long-term goals, my core focus, and then I have my daily to-do list. And I just think if you have that, it just keeps you accountable, because it's keeping it in your mindset and you're carrying things over. So it's just to bring it into awareness, to keep it in awareness of what you're doing and what you have to do. Short-term, long-term, core focus is really, really important. And one thing, what's the one thing that is really going to drive you forward? We talked about non-negotiables before. Now, it's exercise for me in terms of my mental health. That helps me to think and act better and everywhere else. But what's my one core focus at the moment in terms of work? It was my PhD for a long time, but now it's really venturing into the corporate arena and developing this whole project that I'm doing. And that's the core focus. And I think that's important to know as well. And another thing that can be really, really good as well, we're talking about accountability, because sometimes we do too many things. And I think me and you would be at fault at that. At fault to be the wrong word, but we get excited. We love what we're doing, and we can do too many things. And it's nearly not to have a to-do list, but it's nearly invert that and have a not to-do list. What are the things you are doing right now that you shouldn't be doing? Yeah. And I think what we spoke about before we went online, Brian, was like inability to be flexible, like have your goals, but to be flexible within that as well, to change it. What's on your not to do list, is it actually working? So I love, do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, no, it's really important, isn't it? Like, and I'll admit, I'll be accountable. Like, I am not great at this, and the setting goals, but it is important. I know it is important. And again, for anyone that is, again, starting out, I think that the most important one to start with is what's your. And I always mention this. What's your why? Why are you doing this? Why are you setting up your business, or why does your business or organization exist? What's it? What's the purpose of it, and why are you getting involved in it? And that's, for me, that's almost like that's your long-term goal or long-term vision, or you can translate it into your long-term goal. And then the medium-term stuff, they're your goals. That's what you need to hold yourself accountable to. And
Yeah.
yes, you can have that list, and I love the not to do list as well. It's, again, something I definitely should have, but it's having that goal list is important, but prioritizing that goal list is, arguably more important. And I
Yeah.
think that's kind of what we're doing here. So
Yeah.
every week, because we're keeping it to 3. We only have 3
Yeah.
every week, and yourself, we've got an awful lot more than that.
Yeah.
But I think keeping it to 3 priority goals every week that's helping to focus things. That
Yeah.
really is helping to focus.
Big time. And you know what? You know what I find consistently crazy every single week is that I need to think, not deeply, but I really need to think about my 3 goals.
Yeah,
And what I've noticed is if we weren't having this call, I'd be too busy to name them 3 goals.
me
And
too.
that's really, really interesting that because we're keeping each other accountable, we're being accountable for forcing these 3 goals of what we need to do each week. And there was something else you jumped on there that I think is really important as well, is setting those micro goals. And that's very linked to what we're doing, these weekly micro goals as well, because we talk about incentives like money. If you pay money for something, you're incentivized to be accountable for the money that you've spent. But when you have those little micro goals as well, there's little wins from that. The big long-term goals, you're not going to feel the reinforcement, the reward from that, because it's long-term. But when you have them little micro goals and you're ticking the box, it's sort of psychologically, it gives you that tick box little win. And it's like, yes, getting it, clearing the decks, getting there, making progress. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And we kind of touched on it, but what helps me there, so I have my goal, I have the goals set, and keep myself, prioritize those goals. It's committing then to those goals, and as you kind of committing, but knowing the line between committing and over committing.
Yeah.
So just understand, it takes time to figure that out depending on your workload. But yeah, committing to goals, confirming deadlines with whoever you're working with, confirming those deadlines. There's your commitment there. That's set down. You're accountable now. You got to hit that deadline, and then it's working towards that, and then managing your priorities.
Yeah, definitely. The over accountability thing is key. Our over commitment thing is key. It's like a rule governed behavior. It's like blinkers. It's having the blinkers on. If it's not working, it's not working. If it's not happening, it's not happening. So like you can walk your talk and say you're going to do that, but you need to have agility or a flexibility within that and say, right, I need to take a step back here. Maybe this isn't working. And it's nearly like one of my core values in life is accountability, in terms of I do what I say I'm gonna do. But throughout COVID, one of the values that really floated to the top for me was flexibility, an ability to pivot under changing circumstances. So if I was saying I do what I say I'm gonna do, but COVID was really stopping me from doing that, you need to be flexible within that changing environment. So I think that's absolutely critical.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm learning so much about accountability thanks to Parkit. Last year, now almost a year now, we registered formally as a company limited by guarantee, which essentially means it's a not-for-profit organization, but there's a board in place now, and so an independent board, and they've elected me as the CEO. And even though I founded Parkit, I set it up, I started running it for years completely on my own. Because it's a company limited by guarantee, because there's a board in place, if I'm doing something wrong, if I'm not being fully transparent, that board can kick me out at any stage.
Wow.
Kick me out of what I feel is still my own organization.
Yeah.
It's not really anymore. And the way Parkit is set up, it has to be like this. And I'm comfortable with it because I'm being as transparent as possible. It's the way it has to be. It's a social enterprise. It's about giving back to local communities.
Yeah.
So this is the model for it. And so like we've got a board meeting now tonight. I'll be reporting back to the board, giving them some updates. But it's interesting. Like they can get rid of me, decide to get rid of me at any stage, and I'm gone. And there's no comeback for me then.
Yeah.
So I have to be fully accountable and transparent to the board.
Yeah.
in everything that I do.
For the ethos of what Parkit is then as well. Yeah. I love that, man. I love that. We're nearly up on time, Brian, and this was a great chat. This was great for myself, just to keep in mind accountability. It's a lot of moving parts, isn't there? There's a lot you need to keep in mind, and it's something you need to work on every single day. It's not, you're just not. Although you could be more in tune, or you more have a trait towards being more of an accountable person, but something you have to work on all the time.
Big time. And I love that line, your line, like self-accountability, being self-accountable. That's something it's so important.
It's so important, especially with entrepreneurship. And what's your 3 for next week, Brian?
So the 3 for next week, right? So my targets for next week. So I've got that launch tomorrow. So that's a big deal. Anyone wants to join that, you're welcome. Follow my links. I'm sure you'll find it. So that's my launch for my relaunch of my 8-step framework course. I'm going to have, there will be a decision on the insurance. We've got the board meeting tonight. When's the date for the Parkit Community Leader Program? When is that? So a decision on that. And then I'm taking a leaf. I'm going to be accountable. I'm going to take a leaf out of your book as well for this week coming. R&R. I've got R&R in there and kind of proper illness recovery, all of that. Going to try, and it's a bank holiday weekend as well. Want to try. We might actually be getting away for a few days as well. I would love that. So I think that would be just proper R&R, kind of switch off a little bit and just kind of, get that. I want to be accountable for my R&R as well. So I'm getting that in there on my target list.
So important. You look at the best athletes in the world. LeBron James is #1. That is a huge part of his performance is the R&R. So it's like, you have to think about it that way as well. It's so important. Yeah, my 3 for next. Yeah, so my 3 for next week is so it's a workbook that I'm doing. There's a corporate course that I'm designing. It's basically a program I call it a program for life that I'm doing. I'm bringing it into the corporate arena. It's basically the program that I've been developing for the past 8 years based on my recovery and my expertise. So I'm designing the workbook for that at the moment for the first course that I'm launching in November. Another number 2 of the week is basically the grant, the business proposal that I'm doing. I want to get another 20% of that done. I've taken a week off from that, so I want to get 20% of that done, a section of that done. I have 3 pages marked out that I want to get done. And then my 3rd goal of the week is to finish the promotion for the manifesting course, but that will finish over the weekend, and then really nail down, rehearse, get it, really make the first course, the first session slick. So if anyone is interested in that, go onto my website. It's brianpennie.com, and they'll find in courses if anyone wants to sign up for that. It's about unblocking the stuff that's allowing you to have the life of your dreams. Really, it really is.
Sounds good.
Excellent. We're bang on time.
Bang on time. Beautiful.
Keeping
ourselves accountable to the time anyway every week. So
I know. Yeah.
Hey, Brian, listen, have a great week.
Have a great one. Enjoy your R&R, and I will chat to you next week, man.
Thanks, man. Will do.